Hello and welcome to the Quick Take live here on the Fulhamish YouTube channel after Fulham's 1-0 victory over Luton Town in the Premier League. It was nervy, it was edgy, but we got the job done. It'll be last on Match of the Day, no doubt about it. We're here at the Craft Beer Company in Hammersmith, the perfect place for a post-match tipple. Or pre-match tipple, whatever you fancy. And yeah, thanks to the guys for giving us a table today. And I'm here with Farrell Monk. Hello.
Hello, Sammy. How are you?
Good, thank you. Cheers to 3 points.
Cheers.
It was nervy, it was edgy, but I said to a lot of people pre-match, I will take 1-0 scrappy. I don't really care how it comes. It's a banana skin avoided, I think is the key thing to say here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think we're not going to come. We're not coming into this game expecting free flowing, trying to they're going to be right on us and we're going to exploit them with counter attacks or anything like that. This was going to be break them down and get a goal, and thankfully it happened.
Yeah, it was Carlos Vinicius who got the goal. Just a few minutes after coming on, Raul was industrious up front, but just nothing was really falling for him, nothing was really clicking. On came Vinny. It was a scrappy goal, but that was how it was going to be today, wasn't it? It was either going to be some sort of long-range worldie or a scrappy goal where it fell to one of our strikers in the box. It was the latter. I mean, it's just so far from a classic today, but just sometimes it doesn't matter about grabbing headlines and doing it the best way or smashing teams. Sometimes it's just as simple in this league as getting 3 points.
Yeah, and I mean, considering Fulham are going to be by far last on Match of the Day, they might as well cut it. I think the only people that are actually going to see Vinicius' goal are people in the stadium today, because we're going to be so late on Match of the Day, everyone's going to be falling asleep by that stage. But yeah, it was a scrappy goal. A tiny little bit of magic from Willian on the left-hand side to sort of get down to the byline and get that ball in. The wingers really toiled and really hard to try and get that little bit of extra space, and thankfully it happened once and Vinny grabbed the tap in.
Yeah, I thought it might have been disallowed for offside, but not for offside, for a handball from Iwobi. But I think that might have just been me, because no one around seemed to care, and I assumed VAR checked, and VAR was always correct. So yeah, I'm sure it was a legitimate goal. In the first half, it was very cagey. I thought Fulham were quite good in the opening 10-15, but then Luton kind of had seen out the storm, and the rest of that first half was just incredibly frustrating. I think it was quite hot out there as well, and just nothing was clicking us. We could have played that first half twice, and no goals were. And actually, the most likely team to score in that first half was probably Luton.
Yeah, and I mean, not forgetting that they smashed the post with a header as well. And yeah, Fulham really tried. I think that we knew what their game plan was, and if it wasn't for the heroics of Paulinho time and time again stifling counter-attacks, it could have been one of those ones where Luton picked up the goal and then it would have just been them frustrating us the entire game. But fine margins.
Speaking of Zhao, obviously he signed his new contract on Thursday with Harrison Reed. What a moment. That was not what I expected to see when I checked my phone at 6:01. The WhatsApp groups en masse going mental. He was exceptional today. Oh my God, that first half performance. I know that probably the new contract, there was no doubt of him putting in a shift today after he did that, but yeah, wow. I think if there was any reminder to the world of what a player João Palhinha is, then today was that day.
Any doubt that he's been looking to his Bayern Munich transfer probably next summer, and his performance as a drop has been completely wiped away. His performance in the first half, quite rightly, fantastic. And like I mentioned, stifling those counter-attacks, the amount of times they broke in behind our midfield, tracking, and I just don't think players like Lukic and Reed, as good as they are, would have been able to get back and make those tackles like João Palhinha did. And all it would take was one of them to them to keep breaking, and they could have got that goal. But João Palhinha is, as we know, he is absolutely integral to this team, and he has saved us a lot of points down the years, and he's going to save us some more, hopefully, coming the rest of the season.
Honestly, we are so hard to beat with João Palhinha in this side. We are just rock solid whenever he is on the pitch. It's incredible, and we are lucky to watch him at the moment. Timothy Castagna made his debut at left back. Robinson must have had an injury because he wasn't in the squad. He also didn't play that last US game as well, which I hadn't realised was because of a knock. I thought he might have just been getting a rest, but quite clear clearly that was obviously to do with whatever he's picked up. I thought Sammy was okay. I've heard rave reviews about him. I wasn't quite as raving as everyone else, but he was solid, and I guess also difficult to try and deputise for someone like Anthony Robinson, and his and Ream's positioning on the pitch is so integral, and it's hard to just step in, particularly when the left isn't his most natural side. But solid, 7 out of 10.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. Like, obviously, that little Ream and Robinson American left-hand side is absolutely key to how Fulham play. I mean, how many times does Ream doesn't even have to look and plays that left-sided curved ball right into Anthony Robinson's galloping stride, and it gets the team forward. But we're not going to see that from Timothy Castagna. But what we did see today was how solid and how good he was in the tackle. And I think probably why Marco really wanted a player like him, because, you know, one of the big differences I saw today between the two teams was how positive Fulham were in the tackle, how often the ball was there to be won and Fulham were like on it. And I thought Timothy Castagna was doing that as well, like we see with Kenny Tete on the right-hand side. So I think he's a fantastic addition to the squad, and he's going to be challenging certainly Tete and Robinson on either side. But he's a great squad player, much like Luke. Luke is a good squad player, really.
And Alex Iwobi made his debut. He came on just a couple of minutes before the goal as well. It was him and Vinicius that came on only 2 or 3 minutes later. He was involved in the build-up for the goal, and I thought he was positive. I can see why Marco wanted him so badly. It wasn't a debut for the ages, but yeah, I think he just brought a little bit of chaos to our play, which is what was needed today, because Luton were kind of predicting everything that Harrison Reed was doing, and Iwobi came on and just 100% sure which way he was going to go. He probably could have got a goal as well in the second half if he just kept it down. So, yeah, fair play. I like it.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of this signing. I'm so surprised Everton really, let him go, considering, I mean, the previous owners were probably just like trying to eke out a little bit of extra money before they sold out. I mean, only a few weeks ago, he was by far their best player against us. So for us to pick him up is fantastic. And yeah, you're right, like, it was an impressive performance, but it was a good performance. You're not expecting like João Palhinha levels of debut performances every single time we make a new signing, but it was good enough, and I feel like it's positive enough, and he offers something definitely a bit different. He can break lines, which we definitely needed today. He can sort of like drift in and out, and you're just not entirely sure. He must be a nightmare to mark, especially here in the midfield, and he does have it all. Just interesting tactically when he did come on, that basically, usually you see like that classic trio that we have of Paulinho, Reed and Pereira, and Reed sort of plays slightly further forward on the right-hand side, and then Pereira plays more centrally but more further forward in sort of like a weird sort of triangle. But when Iwobi came on, he sort of like played sort of in line with Pereira, which kind of meant that Pereira dropped back and sort of influenced play a bit deeper than we usually do see him. So that's an interesting one to see, and I think it's something slightly tactically that could offer something a bit different.
Well, Marco now has a little bit more manoeuvrability in that midfield, a few more options, a few different ways to play, which I imagine for a manager is so important, because as good as everything was last season, Fulham had basically one midfield formation. If one of the three were missing, it kind of fell apart.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a really tough game for Pereira first half. He was not influencing play at all. He couldn't pick up in the right areas. He did his classic little flicks and tricks, but nothing really came off for him. Again, second half, he could influence play a bit more, dropping a bit deeper. Like we see when Kenny used to, sometimes would come on and just sort of like, he would play the Pereira role, but would just float in around and try and influence play as much as he possibly could. And it worked a bit better for not just for Pereira, but for the team overall.
And then Fulham, we're sitting on 7 points now, 5 games played, and you've got to look at this as an opening and think, solid, we're into the top half for now. We'll see what happens in the Newcastle-Brentford game, which is playing as we record this, but this is a solid start, and that was why today just felt so vital. Just get the win, just get it done. I don't really care. I don't need to win 2 or 3-0. Just get the points on the board. And there's a lot of kind of daylight now below us, and a few games now where we can build on this.
Yeah, exactly. And I think last season, one of the key key reasons why Fulham had such a good season is because we got off such a good start. We weren't just worrying the whole time, and the team could relax, and every game became a bonus point as opposed to fighting for our lives, and that nervousness can kick in. And we looked at the first run of fixtures and we thought, well, that is a tough start, but we come away with 7 points. That's a fantastic start, I think. We've got some tough games coming up, and now we've got some good points on the board. The games it won't be long before we're looking at, we're halfway through the season, there's only a third of games to go, because it's not the Championship. It's like, we'll just write this one off. We've got 100 more Tuesday night games to come, I think it's a good start, and we would have looked at this and thought, 7 points from 5 games, absolutely happy with that, and 2 wins as well. That's a good thing as well.
Yeah, and just nice to be doing a quick take in happy occasions. The last home one anyway against Brentford we drew here at the Craft Beer Company was pretty miserable. So it's nice to drink to 3 points for the Fulham today. Farrell Monk, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And we'll be back with another quick take straight after the Palace game. Check out the podcast. It's going to be out on Monday with more reaction to today's game. But come on, you Whites.